This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
The UEFA Euro 2024 gets underway on Friday, so it is time to dive on in and break it all down. We got Dr. Ed Feng on the show for today. He's going to dive into his international soccer model, letting you know how he built that and what it says about outrights for this year, and also some golden boot stuff, and we'll talk matches as well. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and FanDuel Research. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, joined here as mentioned by Dr. Ed Feng. You can find his work at thepowerrank.com. Find Ed on X at the Power Rank as well. Ed, the Euros are here. How you doing today?
Doing awesome. I cannot wait to dig into Euro. I think it's just such an awesome tournament, and Copa America coming up soon. So the club season ends and soccer just keeps on rolling, and it's pretty awesome for fans.
You've got that. We've got like the Olympics just around the corner. So like if you're someone who is into like these like international like fun sports, it is firmly your time to shine.
Yeah, I cannot wait to lay whatever number Mondo Duplantis is going to be to win the pole vault.
Just whatever.
Super fun. I mean, whatever the number is, dude. I laid it for like the World Indoors because that's the last time I saw a number, and he almost lost. But yeah, anyway, Mondo Duplantis, that's my tip right now, man. I mean, the man is such a better pole vaulter than anyone in the world. It's like hilarious.
Yeah. So we preach price sensitivity always because it's like one of the most paramount things in betting, unless it comes to Duplantis pole vaulting. That's it. That's the one exception.
Yeah. It's a fun sweat though, because it's just
I don't know if I'd classify it as fun. I'd be very nervous the whole time. And I like to try to avoid frying my nerves, Ed. So thank you in advance for making me forsake that one rule. For today, we're going to dive into the Euro 2024, outlining how Ed's international soccer model works. We'll talk some futures, where Ed sees value there, and break down some individual matches where Ed sees value as well. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. If you want some thoughts on Game 4 in the NBA Finals, potentially the final NBA game of this year, that is already up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Tom Vecchio on Thursday, breaking down his thoughts on that. We talked props he likes, total, spread as well. So find that in the Covering the Spread podcast feed, and also up on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can start the MLB season with $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That is $200 you can use on money lines, totals, strikeouts, homers, you name it. Or combine your bets in a same-game parlay for a chance at an even bigger payout, all in an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only, $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, DC, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777. Or visit ccpg.org/chat, Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghealth.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghealth.org in Maryland, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Ed, we've talked international soccer a couple times here on the show. We talked about it for the Women's World Cup last year and the Men's World Cup as well. We've talked about this in general, but for the listeners who may be new or didn't hear those shows, What all goes into cooking up your international soccer rankings?
The international soccer rankings are just team rankings, like the way I started doing things over a decade ago in all sports. So it simply looks at goal differential, point differential, and adjust for strength of schedule with my algorithm that I developed. And adjusting for strength of schedule is super important in international soccer. A lot of the best teams are in Europe. So when they play, some of the lower teams in Asia, you really need to adjust for that. When they play Fiji, you need to adjust for that. When Germany beats San Marino like 13-0, which I'm pretty sure has happened since I've started following soccer, you need to adjust for that as well. One of the benefits of my algorithm is that it's going to tend to de-weight those outliers, like a 13-0 Germany over San Marino. So that gives you rankings, and then the rankings lead to match predictions. A lot has changed. The model is still, I think, useful, but it is yet less useful than it used to be. Things are definitely very advanced on the men's side of soccer things. We know a lot. There's a lot of player-based models. I definitely look at the model. I look at the predictions, and we'll talk about some of that today in this episode. But Jim, I think I'm not actually going to post all the predictions on my site. They just kind of don't make enough sense. And the Power Rank really isn't a site about predictions anymore. I think it's a site about betting. And if it doesn't make sense to put everything, then I'm probably not going to do it. It's still fun. It's still fun to look at. It's interesting. Brazil, since the beginning of recorded since the beginning of recorded time, has always been at the top of these rankings. They're actually not. They are in 6th place in South American World Cup qualifying right now. And Argentina is at top. So things change. It's always interesting. It's always interesting to look at what happens. I should mention that the international soccer tends to be pretty stationary. Brazil is always at the top. England's actually done a lot better. They were traditionally right near 10th always. They are much higher than that now. I think they're 4th. But it does tend to be stationary, right? Like the U.S. has kind of had this idea that they're going to have this golden generation and kind of move up into the top 10. It's always been this dream that the U.S. will be a top 10 team. And no, they're not. I mean, they're still 20th, and they've always been in the teens. And my model kind of looks at a 4 or 5 year window, I guess, since the start of 2020. I look at all matches, weight more important matches more, and weight friendlies less. And you can check that out at thepowerrank.com. Definitely something worth looking at.
So you mentioned that it's become less predictive over time, and the market, it seems like, has gotten pretty sharp when it comes to these things. Right. Why do you think that is? Is it soccer analytics getting better? Teams like Stats or sites like StatsBomb and stuff like that having a lot of good player level data. What leads to the evolution you've noticed in the international soccer market?
I think all that stuff. I think we have a much better grasp on player level data, player level rankings. I think there's a lot of sharp soccer bettors out there that will bang these markets into place. Pinnacle's been, booking soccer for a long time. They are famous for being very good at it. So, when you're looking at the win-loss draw type markets over there, it tends to be pretty sharp. So, and that, that's a lot of factors, more data, more bettors, everything really.
For sure. Yeah. And could always something where you look into like a market implied team strength, like you've done for the NFL and things like that in college football, but a lot of moving things. But that's, just create a new model, Ed. Create a new model from scratch.
I know. It would really be interesting to have kind of a market-based model for soccer. Yeah. It's certainly possible. Really should have some market-based models for baseball too. But I'll leave that for someone else.
Yeah.
Someone go do it, please.
When you get bored in 60 years, then maybe we'll, when you're finally bored, Ed, we'll find time to do that. Now, talking specifically about Euro 2024, a lot of people, I'm guessing, given that this is not an every year kind of thing, are either watching this event or betting it for the first time. So for those people, potentially me, what should people know before they decide to bet this event?
First, from a fan perspective, I've been watching soccer for maybe almost 2 decades now, and I find Euro as exciting as the World Cup. It is a fantastic tournament. It's really, really competitive. You can actually argue it's more competitive than the World Cup because you don't have some of the lesser teams in Asia that come in, some of the lesser teams in North America that come in. Euro did expand from 16 to 24 teams, so we'll see how teams like Albania do this time around. But the European teams all tend to be really well organized. So these games are really competitive. So just an example, like a team like Switzerland, not a ton of stars. The goalkeeper, Gregor Kobel's pretty good, plays for my favorite team, Dortmund in Germany. Granit Xhaka is a player that's been at Arsenal. He's at Bayer Leverkusen. So they have a couple good players, but they're going to be super well organized. They're going to be able to give, the favorites are England, France, and Germany, and they should be, but there are teams like Switzerland that can just give them give them a match. I was looking at my, I rank offense and defense when in that soccer model I was telling you about. No team in this field is worse than 63rd in the world out of 200 some nations on defense. So, and that just goes to the coaching and organization, right? Like even the lesser teams like Albania are going to be good on defense. There's a little bit more of a spread when it comes to offense, but it's a really, really competitive tournament. As I mentioned, it now has 24 teams, so that is 6 groups of 4. That's gonna go into a round of 16. So a couple third place teams are gonna get in there, and then it's single elimination till the end. A lot like the World Cup. It's just fantastic soccer. I mean, it gets me as excited as the World Cup, and really fortunate to have it. Oh, I guess I should talk a little bit about betting perspective. As we'll talk about in this episode, I mean, I'm personally going to stay away from the win, loss, draw type markets. I think those are super sharp. I think there's a lot of people that know a lot about betting men's soccer, and those markets. Get beat into shape pretty good. If you want to bet something, maybe there's an injury and they have the lineup for the next game for a team. Maybe you can jump on it early, as soon as that new line gets posted. I think there might be some value there. But I'm going to stick to some other markets, some goal totals we'll talk about a little bit later. I actually dug into a little bit anytime goal score in a match. So I think that's an interesting market. And then since, most people who are quantitative bettors like me, you probably get annoyed because it's always a lot of unders and boring stuff to bet for. So actually did some stuff with Golden Boot, which I think is pretty interesting. Okay. Some non-quantitative stuff. So a little bit of a chance to root for some goals and stuff to happen. I think those are the markets to really look at. And I think we had a pretty, I don't know how much I talked about it on the show, but I had a pretty good run with the Women's World Cup last year.
Oh yeah, I followed most of your stuff and it was good. I can still see it on my tracking apps. It was pretty solid.
Awesome. It's harder. It's going to be harder for Euro. We're still going to try, but we're going to be a little bit more cautious. Yeah. And but it's still going to be fun.
I think being cautious is always smart because again, I say this a lot. It's like my catchphrase, but a non-bet is better than a bad bet. So I'd rather wind up with no action, be happy with that, than bet something that I don't think is going to be plus EV in the long term. So cautious to me is always going to be a good thing from a betting perspective. So let's take a look at the outright markets now, Ed, where England is the favorite. They are plus 350 at FanDuel Sportsbook. France is plus 390. Germany is plus 440 to win this one. When you look at the outright markets, Ed, any values stand out to you right now?
Right. So being cautious is good, but sometimes you wait too long to pull the trigger. I actually think the top 3 teams are right on. England and France are definitely the top 2 teams in Europe right now, 3rd and 4th when you look at my world rankings. Germany's a lot lower, 12th, 13th, somewhere outside the top 10. But that doesn't really make sense to me. When you do some more player level analysis in 5 Nuggets this past weekend, I kind of looked at the top, which countries had the most players in the ESPN FC 100. So the top 100 players in the world. And Germany had as many players as England and France on that list. The Germans are always loaded. And they're at home. So that's a huge factor. At some point within the last month, I think you could have gotten Germany plus 650, 7-1, something like that. I wish I would have bet that then. I think this price is about right. They should be a little bit behind England and France. So caution is good, except when you get screwed and you bet too late. I do like an outright. I like Spain at plus 800. Let me just give you a sense for where they are in my world rankings. They are definitely in the top 10. They are 6th. Portugal actually just jumped them after they beat Northern Ireland like 3-0 the other day. But Spain is really good. They've certainly shown the results over the last 5 years to be a top 6 team in the world. They're plus 800. That seems a little bit too long. I think there's a little bit of value there. They have elite players like Rodri, who is widely considered to be the best defensive midfielder in the world, plays in Man City. Pedri is a young midfielder for Barcelona that is just super, super great on the ball. And Morata is a forward for Atletico Madrid that scores a lot of goals. We'll get into him later. They have the talent, numbers wise. So numbers wise, in terms of like my analytics, definitely like Spain and would see value here. And they don't, when you look at the ESPN FC top 100, they don't quite have as many players up there as the top 3. But I think when you combine that with, just looking at, my analytics and stuff, I think there is value in Spain 8-1. And I think that's where I look at value for the outright market.
Are you using the ESPN FC rankings as kind of like a proxy for like you talk about the value of an Associated Press ranking for men's college basketball and stuff like that? Is that kind of what you're trying to encapsulate by looking at those FC rankings?
I think there's certainly a wisdom of crowds aspect to it. They poll over 50 people on the staff at ESPN. So that is certainly the power in looking at that. I think from a top-down perspective, I just want to know how good the players are, because that's not necessarily reflected in 5 years of international matches, of which most of them are friendlies, and Germany's low because they didn't make it out of the group in the last World Cup, right? So I'm trying to get a sense for players, and the ESPN FC 100 is great. You should do the same analysis with what's the EA game? Like the video game does ratings for every single player in the world, right? You should do the same analysis there and look at how these teams are. I think there's a lot of value in looking at players. Another thing that you should do, I bet you could build a pretty good international model by just looking at the club salaries of the starting 11 for each team. You're gonna get a little bit of a bump for England, right? Because just a lot of those guys play at home, and maybe they get paid a little bit more because of that, because it's the richest league in the world. But I think like that would actually probably be able to, I think if you did that analysis, it would show that the US is better than Mexico right now. And that's what my numbers say as well. So really the goal is to develop some kind of sense for how good the players on each team are, because that is going to be important in predicting the outcome.
Interesting. Okay. So, Spain, the best value for Ed, 8-1 right now over at FanDuel Sportsbook. You made mention to the golden boot market. Let's pull up that over at FanDuel Sportsbook, and I scrolled past it. The golden boot right now. Kylian Mbappe is the favorite, plus 470, followed by Harry Kane of England, plus 550. So it's kind of correlated there to the overall outright markets. When you look at this market, Ed, where do you see the value here?
So, Jim, I did a really good thing about this market. Like, I didn't look at the market before I did some analysis about who should be the favorite, right? So, thought about what happened with all the clubs, looked at, XG per 90. So, non-penalty XG per 90 in terms of goals over their club play this season, and kind of thought about who should be there. And, the conclusion is like Harry Kane should be the favorite, right? He is a Brit that plays at Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich had a terrible season, but Harry Kane did not. He is a great finisher. He will take every single one of England's penalty kicks as well, which obviously helps when you're looking for the golden boot. Kylian Mbappe of France is probably the best player in the world. and he won a World Cup when he was 17. I mean, he led France to a World Cup when he was 17, almost led him to another one in 2022 over Argentina. When he wants to play, he's the best player in the world. I'm not sure he's going to want to play. I'm not sure he's necessarily going to be at his best in this game. He plays for PSG, and they played Dortmund in the semifinal of the Champions League, and I fully expected him to just absolutely run over the Dortmund defense. That's really not what happened. Now, those are types of statements that can make you look really dumb after a little while. But I do think Harry Kane should be the favorite. I'll take a chance with him plus 550. A couple of the longer shots that I like in this market. Jamal Musiala is a young German that is just electric with talent. He just absolutely lit up the group stage of the last World Cup. I looked at him. He's like 42-1. 42-1. So Jamal Musiala, just all the talent in the world, hasn't really had a great club season, hasn't burst onto the scene at Bayern Munich like I've kind of expected him to. But if anyone from Germany is going to get super hot, score a bunch of goals, I like that. I like Jamal Musiala at 42-1. And then Alvaro Morata from Germany, from Spain. When you look at his numbers, he's one of the best club-wise in the world. 0.61 non-expected XG per 90, 29-1. I do think there's value here. So a couple long shots there. I think it's worth a couple bets there. I mean, I will be betting them. And so I think those are some interesting plays in Golden Boot. And again, it's fun to root for that.
Sure.
And I do think there's some value there.
Yeah, those names again were Harry Kane plus 550, Jamal Musiala 42-1, and Alvaro Morata 29-1 with the Golden Boot. The thing I like about the market, Ed, is you talked about how good the defenses are. That's kind of like an environmental factor, and that can hurt the appeal of anytime goal scorer markets and stuff like that. But this will account for it because it's taking into account that environment, because it's going across all these games, where it's not like if the overall goal scoring environment is lower, that impacts everybody in this market versus like a yes only market for a goal scorer. That's where you want to be a bit more skeptical given how good the defenses are that you alluded to earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can still bet those markets. So let's take a look at some matches. First match is on Friday. Germany, the host country, does kick things off on Friday. Any bets stand out to you across individual matches, Ed?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, these win, loss, draw markets are really don't interest me. I tend to be kind of off market on it quite a bit. Let me give you an example. I mean, I have Germany at 59% to beat Scotland at home. Kind of far off, minus 370. I'm no interest in betting Scotland. I think Germany's going to pummel them in this opener. But the model also does give you goals. And so one thing that's interesting, Italy versus Albania. I have 1.85 goals in that game. The under at FanDuel, when I checked, under 2.5 goals was minus 135. So I think this kind of makes sense. Like, I don't think Albania is going to score a single goal against Italy. The Italians are just great on defense. They've always been great on defense. I always expect them to be great on defense. The numbers definitely point towards the under. Could Italy score 3 goals? Sure. But Albania is not the worst defensive team by my numbers in this. So that's one thing that did stand out. And it's one of these things, Jim, like I'm not just looking at the numbers and saying, oh, let's bet the under here. Let's use that with some knowledge about the teams. Long-term track record of Italy. I do like under 2.5 goals.
That market right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, is minus 136, right around where you had it at minus 135. That is for the Italy-Albania match, under 2.5 goals, minus 136. That one, again, it does play into your overall thread of we're going to see a lot of good defense in these games, and that plays well towards an under there. That's all that we have for today for this Euro 2024 preview, but more Ed coming down the pipeline as well. Find Ed on Twitter, or on X, I should say, at the Power Rank. Ed, what else is going on for you over at the Power Rank right now?
Right. I'm writing my free sports betting email newsletter. If you're looking for any action on any given weekend, definitely sign up. Check that out at thepowerrank.com. I recorded an episode of the Football Analytics Show with Peter Bukowski. He does Locked On Packers. He does a bunch of Locked On stuff. I don't know how this guy sleeps after talking to him this morning, but it was a super fun conversation. We got his take on the Packers and the Lions too. We kind of covered the division, so it was super fun. Check that out wherever you get your podcast, the Football Analytics Show.
Okay, search for that Football Analytics Show. Find Ed's, sign up for the newsletter, thepowerrank.com. And again, find Ed on X at thepowerrank. I am on X at Jim Sonis. You can also find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your bets. We'll talk to you once again next week. Enjoy the opening weekend of Euro 2024. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.